Good morning, ni hao. Thank you so much for coming to this place and for inviting us from the Netherlands. And I'm really excited to talk here today with you. Please also note that if you have questions, you can also ask them in Chinese and they will be translated. So if you don't feel comfortable in English, please ask your question in Chinese, because for us it's really important to have an interaction with you and with the students in Taiwan. To me that's unique, of course, because in the Netherlands I talk with the other students. So here I'm really curious about how you experience a seminar like this today and what you think about the topic. And Yung Ting is a perfect translator, and there's many others. So as you can see, I'm working already with Yung Ting for many years together. And I'm going to continue actually on the talk that Yung Ting gave today. So what we all focus on is children's well-being, adults' well-being, as we just heard, adolescents' well-being. And what we really want is that people can, and let me focus for now on children. What we really want is that children can go out and be with their peers and learn. And that's what we call social learning. And of course you learn a lot of cognitive skills like reading and calculation. You learn that in class. But how to have a conversation, how to make friends, how to come to school in the morning and feel welcomed and not lonely, like Yung Ting talked about. That's really social learning, or what we call also emotional intelligence. For example, you learn that through being with others. And very often we see that children who are different, with neurodiversity, that they are separated, that they are not contributing to this social learning. But basically what we want for children is to go, that's why we have breaks, right? We have the classes and then we have breaks. And that's where we want children to socialize, or you are sitting now here listening to me, but next door is the coffee and the tea and the snacks. And that's where we chat, and that's where we meet, and that's how we build up social networks, that next time when you need something, you have made this new connection and you know where to go and you know who likes you or not. Like, Professor, you're smiling so welcoming to me. So that's what we want for all children and for all adolescents, right? And to have this kind of experience. And it doesn't necessarily mean busy talking. As Yung Ting said, it just needs to be, you can be there and you know you're respected for who you are. But this is what we see for reality. When we talk, this happens to be a deaf child with a cochlear implant. And this child here, it's not an exception. And we did research on deaf children in mainstream education. And what we see is that either they are alone in mainstream education, mainstream settings, they're either alone, or they're being ostracized, like when I talked about, when I responded to your question, that if you look closely at the playground, the teachers don't notice. They think, oh, they're fine, they're together. No, if we really focus what we did in our research, if we really focus on children with hearing loss or autistic children, for example, then we see that these children very often are ostracized, that when they come, that no one is friendly towards them. But instead they get what we say, the cold shoulder. You can see other children, they turn away a little bit. So it's not very open, but that subtle rejection. And that's when that happens every day when you come to school, it's killing, right? If that would be my workplace, and I come to my workplace every day, and when I come to the coffee corner and all my colleagues kind of turn away from me, no one says, oh, nice to see you, I would change my jobs. But children cannot change schools. They're forced to go to school. So this is their daily life. And I think this is quite a serious problem in the Netherlands. I don't know Taiwan. But in Western Europe, we see this in different countries. Yung Ting already said, when we look into the literature on autism, then we do see a lot. So we already discussed this, but just to refresh your mind, we're on the same research program, Ting and I, we collaborate very intensively, that we do see autistic children, they have fewer social interactions and they're more time alone. Is this a bad thing or a good thing? We don't know, or the literature doesn't necessarily say that. But when we look into the skills for loneliness that Ting referred to, we do see that especially in high school, autistic pupils more often report that they feel lonely than the non-autistic students. So yes, there is a problem. There's this mismatch that Ting talked about. And I don't know about Taiwan, but I can tell you in the Netherlands, the children who drop out from school, from high school, 60% of those children have autism, is the estimate. So it's a hidden kind of thing because we don't know. Also realize, especially many women, they never get a diagnosis of autism. So imagine even that rate might be much higher. And what do we do to fix this problem? Usually, traditionally, we focus on the child. So we do see this problem, there's this high dropout rate. These children don't want to go to school, or very many girls, they do go to school, but especially in high school, they get depressed. They feel anxious. They don't want to go to school, but they have to, right? And what do? We very much focus on the child and try to kind of fix that child. So at some point, we thought it is time for another approach. Let's have a look at the environment. So if you think about the environment, I'm a psychologist, and usually you think about the peers. Are the peers nice? Like I showed you the photo of the deaf boy on the slide being alone. And then we think, let's do a peer program. So the other children should be nicer to this child, right? And up till one day, an architect came to me and he says, I would like to work with you together on this. And I'm like, yeah, sure, let's work on this together, Delft University. So we included the built environment in this program, in this research program that we're doing. I did not have high expectations of the built environment, but I'm always curious. So, he was offering his knowledge and his theoretical approach, and I thought, let's have a look. Let's see what happens if we think about the built environment. And then we got this grant and we started this research and we interviewed autistic adolescents in high school students. And we asked them about their experience in focus groups or some alone. None of them had a friend in school. Many of them, they said, when I think about school Sunday nights, that I have to go to school on Monday morning, I get a stomach ache or I get nervous. And again, I'm thinking how horrible for these autistic pupils, because again, if I would have to go to work the next day and I'm already nervous now and having a stomach ache because I have to go to my work the next day, I would quit my job, I would start doing something else, and they have no choice, right? So this really made me feel very sad. That none of them really felt comfortable in their school, mainstream education. However, what they also said is they didn't feel comfortable in the building. They didn't feel comfortable being in the school, the physical environment. They said the hallways, they're so crowded. If we need to go to the next class from our mathematics class to the biology class, I don't know the system here, they all go and change to another room at the same time in high school. And so then the staircases and the hallways, they're all so crowded at the same time. They need to put away their stuff in lockers these days, also their mobiles, they need to put them away in lockers. Then they say, you can't get to your locker, it's so busy. Then there's so much noise. I hear the air conditioning all day already, young thing. So there's so much distraction, so much overstimulation all day with the light is no good and there's so much noise. So they are already overwhelmed by the built environment. Not necessarily their peers, but just by the built environment. So imagine if you get overstimulated by being in your high school and it's so much and being autistic and you have to kind of lower that level of arousal on a constant day, constantly, that creates a lot of exhaustion. We asked parents, in another research, we asked parents, and we asked them for many factors, and they filled out online questionnaires, 200 parents of autistic children. So all these parents, these 200 parents had an autistic child in school. And we asked them, how often does your child go to school? Because sometimes they say, I'm ill, and they don't go. Or sometimes they get into a special program because it's too much for them to attend daily. So they only go 1 day a week, some don't go for weeks. And we wanted to know which factors are important. Nothing mattered in this study. It's published, you can find it, except for one factor that contributed to how often these students with autism would go to their high school or primary school. And that was, again, the built environment. So this was a complete surprise for me, right? Because I wasn't that much intrigued by the architecture, by the design of the environment. I thought, yeah, sure. But I wasn't really thinking, oh, here is the main problem. So we find it in one study. We do another very different study. We find it again. Then Yung-Ting showed you already here this RFID data collection. So just for you to remind you. And then now here, find the deaf child. Right? So this is a social network at the playground during break time. And you see all children are interacting. But the more blue, the fewer interactions, time. And the thinner the line, the shorter the interactions. So you can see only a few very thin line to this child that's alone. When we watched the videos and the observer told us, we saw that those very few interactions that this deaf child had during break time, during recess in school, was only by accident when someone would pass by. So it was no one talking to this child during break time. But when we looked at the playground, it was all walls. And also the floor was tiles. And this was a child with cochlear implants, and the acoustics were a nightmare. So the child could not interact with other children because of the vibration of the sound. So again, we didn't plan this, but again, the built environment. So this really woke us up in our research team. There's something going on here that we, coming from educational science or coming from psychology or clinical psychology, we never thought about the built environment. Now imagine you have a child in a wheelchair and you send this child to a school with stairs. And then you say, oh, you have no friends? Let's do a social skills training. But let's first now fix the building, right? So for a child in a wheelchair and stairs, we can all understand. But when it comes to autism or hearing loss or many other kind of neurodiversities, it's not that obvious, and we really need to pay attention, and we need to think, and we need to ask the people, as we discussed yesterday, we need to ask them, what is it you need? What is it in your built environment that you need? And we actually never, me as a psychologist, for 25 years I was already working in the area, I never thought about that. So this really made us change our minds completely. If we don't fix this first, then what else are we doing? And that's especially important for the break time, because again, that's where you create your sense of belonging, that you know you've got friends in school, whether you talk or not, but that you are a part of a group, of a larger community. Now, if we look at even our university, this is not a picture, I should take a picture, Yung-Ting, of Leiden University, because that's a nightmare too. The canteen. The acoustics are horrible, right? So here you are. So what happens when you are in your break time, and many schools have this kind of canteens, you cannot hear what the others are saying. So you sit there, and it looks like you're part of the group, but you're not. You miss the jokes, You don't hear the intonation. You miss everything. If you have hearing loss, you don't even know who's speaking, because if sometimes you have one ear is better than the other, and it's difficult to find the location of the speaker, right? So this is hearing loss, but the same goes for autism, for example, or a language developmental disorder, right? All these kind of difference in neurodiversity might make you feel ostracized, and not even because the peers don't want you, but because you're always too late in the group conversations, and this is really exhausting. And then here we see the hallways, right? And we call this social deafness. It looks like you're there, it looks like you're part of the group, but in fact you're not. It's me being in Taiwan, I can be with you and I don't understand a word of what you're saying, right? If you talk in your language. It looks like I'm there, but you know I don't talk the language. But when it's about autism, we very often don't understand. Oh, my time is up. No. I have 5 minutes. No? Okay. Let me get to the solution. The architecture. So this is an example. In the Netherlands, we cycle a lot. We don't have hills. We're flat. The country's flat. So this is in front of a supermarket where people put their bicycles, and you could not, in the city center of Amsterdam, and you could not enter. Now, this is an intervention in the environment. No one received the training for this, right? There's no teacher training or anything. But now people put their bicycles in these squares. And now you can enter the supermarkets without any difficulty. So this is how small changes in the built environment can create a huge difference in behavior. This is now what I learned from working with architecture. I'll quickly go through a few examples. Yeah, okay, I'm checking if I'm allowed to. I'm checking your Sting visual approval. Good. So I think this is what we should do first before we do anything else now. These aspects, they're going to be online. I go quickly. I show you a few examples. But there's many things in the environment that we can do to create an autism-friendly environment. The acoustics, of course, but also to have a quiet space where if people are over-aroused, if people are overwhelmed, that they can sit there and relax. Now, what I see in the Netherlands, for example, my high school, the high school where my son went to, then they have some room somewhere really hidden, far away. And also yesterday we talked about that, being stigmatized. Then only if you have your disability card that I just saw, your disability thing, then you can go to the teacher and get the key, and then you may have the permission to go there. That's really stigmatizing. That's really making you as an autistic student being so different from the others. You don't want that, so you hide it, right? You won't show that. Which is very different if you, for example, put these kind of pots, or you can make them more closed, into the public space, into the main hallways, into different spots. And actually, Magda Mostafa, the architect with whom we work a lot, she said what happened, and then without any rules. So she said there was a high school using these kind of pots or more closed. And students, when they felt overwhelmed or when they needed to calm down, when they thought themselves they need that, they could go there. They did not ask anyone for permission. They could go during classes. They could go during break times. They could sit there whenever they needed it. Everyone. Not just that one with the disability card. No, everyone. And no permission asked. And what did Magda say? Exactly here is where the autistic students started talking, having interactions with the other students. Because now the environment was fit for them to calm down. And then there's the space to be interested in someone else or not. So I have many other examples which will come online because I have no time. I just quickly show you a playground which I really love. This is a school for autism. And what I really like is this playground. Here they have a kitchen garden. And so when children need a timeout, when they get over-aroused, and they need a timeout. Traditionally, they would have to go inside the building, sit somewhere, right, until they were calm again. But now this school, they created a kitchen garden, and children can choose to either go inside to that time out space, which is of course boring and not nice. I mean, or they could go to the kitchen garden and work there. And all children choose the kitchen garden, all of them. And then no one, again, they don't need anyone to help them to regulate, because here they calm themselves. And they do it on their own terms. And at the same time, it's nice. They get dirty and they get some tactile feelings here with working with the earth and the plants. Anyway, so I love this one. I have a very nice other example, which I'm not going to have time anymore. This is a co-designed project. This is a mother with an autistic daughter. It took her 5 years, step by step by step. She changed the playground into I Love Your Campus. That's a really nice designed campus. So that's what we should do with all playgrounds as well. I don't know, Yungting, maybe the Taiwan playgrounds are nice already or not. I don't know. In the Netherlands, they're not necessarily. Anyway, I skipped this. This is the design. And one of my last messages. The good thing is here you see the heat maps of where are the autistic children and where are the other children during recess time. And what we see is areas that score high on autism-friendly design are liked by all children. Autism-friendly design is not just for autistic children. It benefits everyone. Everyone likes those places better. So it creates diversity. I skipped this one. I think I made my point already, and I think I'm done. And the thing is, when we talk about diversity, I don't like to talk actually about inclusion, because that means, oh, we have a group and you can be included. No, if we think from diversity, then we think everyone has equal rights to be here, and what is it every child needs, because that's what we're going to provide equally for everyone. It's all the public space that we share. Like playgrounds are there for everyone. So what do we need to do? Yes, that's it. I hope in time. Thank you very much.